Good morning.
Good morning. So we are on Alfea, which is your sailboat.
Yeah.
And we are in Hanamoana Bay, Taharata Island in the the Marquesa Islands,
Yeah.
French Polynesia.
Yeah. In the South Pacific.
In the South Pacific.
Because we crossed an ocean.
Yeah.
You on another boat and me on this boat.
So we met in the Galapagos when I was going by on my surfboard.
Yeah.
And we stayed in touch on satellite phone. We were kind of buddy boats.
Yeah.
Checking in on each other's status and safety.
Mm-hmm.
And then we met up here and I discovered that you live this incredible life of freedom, not only on your own sailboat, but having managed to put together this amazing yoga product online. So I kind of wanted to chat to you and share your story with everyone on Still Stoked, because I think that it's something we can all resonate with like being stuck in a rut and being like, I want to change my life, and just creating your wildest dreams and then going out and living in it and having the confidence to do that.
Yeah.
So rad. So tell me about Alfea. How are we here on this amazing boat?
So Alfie is a 52-foot monohull sailboat, and she's 30 years old, so she's in her prime, like me, and like Myers and I, my husband. And about 4 years ago, we were stuck in a rut, like you just said, working, really involved and sucked into the rat race and feeling really unfulfilled and weighed down by society standards, cultural conditioning, and like literal masses of shit that we were amassing and really didn't have this feeling of fulfillment to show for it. And so I was really, really clawing at my husband to let's go do something, let's break free. And we found other sailors on YouTube, which is the beauty of YouTube, and got inspired to start dreaming about this life. And that was kind of the first stepping stone of, could we make this happen? You know, could we go off the grid and sell everything and quit everything? And simultaneously, I was building this yoga community, the Journey Junkie, and it was gaining momentum and building this really beautiful, blossoming, thriving, supportive base. And so kind of in the period of saving for the boat and working, we also kept building the community. And so the timing just aligned so well that when we were ready to quit and leave and buy the job, also the community was ready to support us full time. Amazing. Financially speaking. So amazing. Yeah, the kind of, it was a convergence of effort and energy that now we're here. And now we're about 19 months into living on the boat full time. Started in the Caribbean, went through the canal, and now we met Galapagos and we're in the South Pacific.
And you're hoping to circumnavigate, right?
Yeah, my husband's goal is to circumnavigate. So about 2.5 more years on the water, and we'll bring her home into Florida.
And I think the amazing thing is like you are able to work on the boat and still keep a monthly income.
Yeah.
Which is through what you built with Journey Junkie.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the things I kind of wanted to speak to you about, how you did that and how you got the confidence to do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you did your yoga teacher training, right?
About 6 years ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then it was like a year into it, you were like, I'm going to start putting my videos on YouTube and see what happens with that. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so joined the forces of yoga teachers in the studio, and I was still working full time, so 40, 50 hours a week in a corporate marketing job, and teaching after work and teaching on the weekends. And so it was a lot, and I definitely...
Full-time work.
Yeah, just full-time. And I was building the Journey Junkie, but I wasn't on YouTube yet.
Right.
And so my dream was to quit the cubicle, and I thought becoming a yoga teacher was my ticket. I also love yoga, and it changed my life. And if we can talk about that too, and the changes it did help me create. But really, I was like, I love this practice. How can I share it? How can I make it a career? Then I got into the career, and I realized yoga teachers aren't making enough money. They're running around also in their own version of a rat race. And I thought to myself, there has to be a better way. And so that's when I got the idea to elevate the blog into a YouTube channel and start filming and recording full-length yoga classes and giving them away for free. And that was really the big ticket item that shifted my blog into this more intimate, connected space where people were really resonating with me as a yoga teacher, of course, because you need to take a yoga class to resonate with the teacher.
So before it was like written travel stuff, right? From your trip in Italy?
Yeah. So went to Italy when I was 24 with some girlfriends, got exposed to the freedom-based alternative lifestyle. Before that, I hadn't met anyone doing that.
Yeah.
And so these people were full on unicorns and aliens to me. I'm like, what?
You're doing what on the internet?
I'm like, your parents are letting you do
can
that?
pay for the good wine?
Yeah. People that were like there reviewing restaurants and apartments and tours and fashion bloggers and all sorts of bloggers. And that was my first introduction to that world. And I came home with a vengeance to join that world. And so the Journey Junkie started as a travel blog. I ran out of traveling shit to talk about because I got back in the cubicle. And that was kind of the same time I was becoming a yoga teacher. I started shifting the travel blogging to yoga blogging. Really simple blogging, like 5 yoga poses to stretch your hips. You know, like really simple articles. And then as I became more confident in myself as a teacher, that's when I shifted more to classes. Yeah. And so it was definitely a natural progression of my skill set and what I felt confident in doing, with also a little bit of a push, like you can go further, you can evolve, you can grow, go for it. So the Journey Junkie in 5 or 6 years has evolved so many times, kind of like an orchid, like they bloom and they die and they bloom. And so that's kind of what's happened with me throughout the years, now to where we're at making multiple 6 figures, in a year, which is something that I never thought was possible.
How was it like putting yourself out there at first? Like, okay, I've just done my yoga teacher training. I'm going to film myself and just put it out into the world and wait and see how I'm received. How was that?
Yeah, well, I was telling you the story yesterday about how I received all of the camera equipment and recording equipment to make it happen. Lights, microphone, editing software, cameras, the whole shebang. Finally, I got it all. And then I left it all in a corner for 6 months. I was terrified of it.
Oh my God, where are these electronics? What do they do?
And the electronics, like the mountain to climb in the technology through the lens of technology, but also the mountain of fear to climb and to transcend that fear and not be afraid to put myself out there. And that took a lot of support from other people, but also just like a big sit down with myself. Like, you can do this. At first, I was so afraid other yoga teachers were going to criticize me and tell me all the things I was doing wrong. And to this day, with 80,000 subs and almost 200 videos, I don't think I've ever had a yoga teacher come on and comment and criticize my cueing and my languaging.
That's very un-yoga of them if they do.
Yeah, and if they have, it hasn't been in a mean, spiteful way. It's been constructive criticism. So it's funny, you make up these demons in your mind when you're saying, I'm going to go do something scary, whatever that is to you, and you let that demon really take over. And now, 3 years later, 4 years later, still that's never manifested. No one's ever done that to me. So
it was a made-up fear in your head, right?
Yeah, it's a limiting belief. It's I call it, in my community, a false, limiting, fucked up belief that's programmed into your subconscious mind, and it's now controlling your thoughts, emotions, feelings, and behaviors.
But it doesn't exist.
Yeah. It's a self-created belief. And so I had to really work to transcend those limiting, false, fucked up beliefs and find like my inner strength to move forward. And to some people it might seem so silly, like, how do you not have the strength to make a yoga video? But it's, like we were talking about, it's just a lot of things that you make up, and you got to transcend it, whatever it is. For your girls that are riding big mountains and big big waves, and they're doing really adventurous, high risk stuff, there's always that death grip in your belly that's like, don't go.
Yeah.
But deeper, go. So you gotta access that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Oh, I can relate to that so much. So fast forward, how many years now? 6 years? Oh, we have a visitor. We have a visitor on a rowboat.
Guys, we're doing an interview right now.
Okay.
Can you give us 30 minutes?
We're just returning your machete.
Oh. They're bringing us some knives.
No one will hold you up.
No, thank you.
In the morning, we would go like, fucking guys are fucking machete.
This is boat life.
We felt so bad like taking it.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Returning the machete.
We're gonna be here till 5. So come stop by if you're not leaving yet.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
See you guys later.
Boat life, we have a machete as our weapon in case someone boards the boat.
Stroke coconut access.
Yeah. So, and we took it to the beach last night.
Oh, I love boat life.
Okay, so where were we at?
So, how many years has it been now since you started the Journey Junkie, and now we find ourselves in the South Pacific on this beautiful boat, and you're able to work remotely and really live that like life of freedom that you said you so violently, vengeantly, I can't remember the amazing word you said, went after when you first saw the travel bloggers doing it in
Yeah, because
Italy.
I came back from Italy and came into America back into my gray cubicle, and I felt like my soul was being ripped out of me and sucked out of me every day.
We can all relate to that.
Every day I stayed in the corporate world. Yeah, so it's been about 6 years in total, and I would say a year and a half into that is when I switched from travel to yoga. Like a year and a half after that is when I kind of got into YouTube, and then the last 3 years have been the progression of really building it from a blog to a business and taking it from something that I was doing more out of a hobby into something that I got really serious about and was really interested and curious. How can this support me? And even still, I do this little practice in the morning where I write 10 things that I want to make manifest, but I write about it in the past tense as if it's already happened.
Yeah.
And so one of them is that I financially support my family. And so I would love for Myers to not have to go back to work so that we can continue to be freedom-based and do what we please, even as we have children and, you know, evolve as a family. So that last 3 years, it was like this huge catalyst of how can we bring it and transition it from a blog that was making a couple $100s to something that we can really live off of.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the hardest part, of course.
And what are the pillars of a business? You have online courses, and then you're going to Bali in 2 weeks to a retreat, you lucky thing.
The pillars, that's a good word. The pillars of the business are free content. So for anyone who's getting into the online sphere, free content is the bedrock of your online company or business or existence or, you know, who you are in the world. You have to give free. And you have to give...
People expect it, right?
People expect it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can grow a little resentful, but it is what it is. It's the formula, and it's how you create trust and you build a relationship online. And so free has to happen, and it has to happen consistently. And so the bedrock of the company has been free content, which is usually yoga classes. So that's one pillar. The second pillar is paid programs, which I have 2 different paid programs, which are... You can only join them once a year with me, and they're kind of they're a big deal, and they're 21 days. It's kind of like being at an immersion for like a yoga teacher training.
But in your own time, in your own beautiful home.
Yeah, in your own home, and you have access to the content forever. But like we go hard for 21 days, and it's a life-changing program. That's the second pillar. The third pillar is a monthly membership. So it's an online studio that delves deeper into yoga concepts and principles that you can't really weave into a single yoga class. You know, like we've been talking about and reminiscing about yoga teacher training, the yamas,
niyamas,
the chakras, the Bhagavad Gita, the Yoga Sutras, like this really heavy material.
Yeah, heavy reading.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, so that's the third pillar. Lastly, the fourth pillar is International Yoga Retreat, which is something we just started 2 years ago. Another big hurdle of fear that I had to transcend because leading yoga retreats, I put down a hefty deposit to the location, non-refundable, usually $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, and that deposit secures me there, but it's also saying like I have to book these human beings.
Yeah.
And so that was a big hurdle to transcend as well. Like it's so interesting, right? And I'm sure you ladies listening in who do extreme sports or do anything that's alternative and freedom based, anything that requires you to be your own boss and make these really big decisions, you continue to go through this cycle of fear and transcending it over and over again. And each time you transcend it, you grow more confident and like your mountain of self-esteem grows.
You're like, oh, I did that. Well, it wasn't scary. Look, this is in front of me now. I can do that, you know?
Yeah. And
yeah,
so
you build, right?
You definitely build and you evolve and you grow. And so the biggest, most recent one was opening the membership site and leading retreats was, can I do this?
Yeah.
Will people support this? Will people take time out of their life to fly to Bali, which is where we're going in 2 weeks to lead 2 retreats in Ubud, which I'm super excited about. Yeah. But so those are the 4 pillars: free content, through YouTube, the paid programming, the membership site, and international yoga retreats, and hopefully someday leading trainings like for yoga teacher training, continuing education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Was there any point when you in that journey when your back was up against the wall and you were forced to kind of grow, like you did something and it didn't kind of feel right, and then you were like really forced to turn inward and reflect and pivot, as they say in like startup world, or change?
Well, and we were talking about this, something you said the other night, how you don't want to sell things anymore that you don't think people need.
Yeah.
There's already so much of that,
I
right?
work in advertising and I don't want to go back to a career where I sell people things they don't need for a living.
Yeah.
It doesn't sit well with me. Like
I used to be in the beauty industry.
Yeah.
And we like concocted in our marketing meetings, how do we sell more shampoo?
Yeah.
And hairspray?
How do we make people not feel good about themselves? So they buy this product so they start to feel better about themselves, and we make lots of money. It's a sick kind of world.
It is, and psychologically, if you do it right as a marketer, it works.
It works, yeah. We're very clever in advertising and marketing.
Yes. So I kind of got into a little bit of a hole where it was before I really went into this membership site where I gave myself permission to create the content that was speaking to me the most deeply, right? Like we're talking about the chakras and the 8 limbs, like that stuff really speaks to me. But before that, I was trying to create content for the masses and create content that looked flashy and sold, right? And so in
like
the
modern yoga, kind of polished, not quite there with the spiritual undertones.
Don't talk about spirituality, like that doesn't sell. And so what sells in the yoga world is power, vinyasa, hot, sweaty, tone your body, all of these buzzwords.
Yeah, tight yoga pants.
Yes. Advanced yoga postures, you can do arm balances and inversions. And so I really fell into that trap of creating an entire course, which I stand behind the course and I stand behind the sequences, and a lot of people love it, but I don't stand behind the intention that I went into it to create it, which was I thought power yoga will sell, I'll make a bunch of money, awesome. It did sell, but it definitely didn't make a bunch of money, and it kind of left me with an integrity hangover.
Yeah, right.
Of like, that didn't come from my gut or my heart brain, it came from my head brain, And so from that moment, I've decided, like you, I'm not going to create content that I wouldn't want to buy, and that I don't think is going to resonate deeply enough to create real change in your life. So that was a good learning lesson for me. Don't follow what's popular. Do what feels good, and that's people are going to connect to that.
It's easier to come out of you, I find, if it's coming from like the right place, right? It's less forced, it's less constructed, and it kind of just flows out. And I think your audience can always tell, people that know you and follow your writing and whatnot, they can always tell that if it's kind of been shoehorned in from a different direction somewhat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's good. And what practices have you brought into your life that have had like a profound positive impact?
Yeah, so I would say if you asked me that 2 years ago, I would have said my consistent asana practice, my consistent yoga practice. I was incredibly dedicated in the studio 4 to 6 times a week. Not so much anymore in the boat, and
it's hard to do yoga.
Jump up on a boat and try to like advance your yoga
You're
practice.
literally like holding on and like downward dog, you're falling off, and it's pretty impossible to do any sort of training on a boat.
No, everything has to be low to the ground. So you can do like bridges and core work, and that's about it. And a lot of shavasana.
Happy baby. It's my favorite yoga pose on the boat.
You can do that too. So since moving on the boat, and since my asana practice had to take a serious back seat, what's taken a front seat, which is really nice, is my pranayama, yogic breathing exercises, and my meditation practice has really amplified. And it's been a blessing, because I don't know if I would have ever carved out the time to do it when my asana practice was so important and at the forefront. And I was really dedicated, just like being really strong. And not that being really strong isn't good, but also like you want to be mentally and emotionally strong too. So
it's the balance, right? It's what yoga's all about. The asana. The asana is what, just 1/6? Is it 1/6 or a 1/4 of yoga?
1/8.
1/8.
So the 8 limbs, and
of course.
So it's a very small portion, And so being on the boat, that practice has really developed for me, using pranayama and meditation as a way to cope with stress and anxiety and overwhelm and frustration and anger. and comparison, like all of those not so good feelings, those practices are an anchor to help me feel really centered within and present. Yeah.
And what do you do when you feel overwhelmed? You have any strategies? Do you have some mantras you were saying?
Yeah. So we were talking about that, like, especially to transcend fear. Chris Carr she's a yogi kind of girl. She's got an acronym, and I think a lot of people use it, but false evidence appearing real. So sometimes we've been out there and we've been in big seas and like big winds, and I'm pretty freaked out on the boat. I say to myself, false evidence appearing real. Like the story I'm making up in my mind hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And the opposite of that acronym is face everything and rise. And I've applied that to my business too. You know, when I feel really scared about investing in a retreat center and putting down a lot of money and believing that my community is going to rise to the occasion and come meet me in these really great locations, I have to say to myself, false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
You know, the ego brain, the scared brain is like, no one's going to come. You're going to lose all your money. Don't even try.
Sitting there like refreshing the page.
Yeah. Has anyone purchased? Yeah. Has anyone? No one's bought yet.
Oh God.
I'm thinking.
Go do some pranayama. Nadi shoulda.
We're thinking. So, and I think also knowing that everyone has been there before you.
Yeah.
And the people that you might look up to and that do cause a little bit of comparison and like, oh, I'll never get there. At the same time, I can look at them and appreciate that they've been here too, that they had to do this one hard step and this next hard step and this next hard step, and look at them, like they made it, and so I can make it too.
Did you have any support like from people that had done it before that you were able to ask questions?
Yeah. So I invested in a really killer course about 3 years ago, which was the catalyst to change my blog into a business, and it's actually called Blog to Biz. And it was an online marketing girl that I really resonated with.
Is it still available now?
Yeah. Her name is Melissa Griffin.
Oh, cool. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, she's based in Cali, and that course opens once a year. And I followed her formula, of course, applying it to my niche of yoga. And it gave me the tools and the container to literally shift it from a blog to a business.
Yeah.
And so that was the catalyst, and really following her. And also following her because she makes multiple 7 figures online, and you know, in the last year she burned out and took 9 months out of her business and just like went dark. And so also seeing how you can kind of go too far but still remain in this space of integrity and be open and honest with your community and be like, I went too far. I got to pull back.
Time out, guys.
Yeah.
I gotta go sit in French Polynesia. There's no internet.
Yeah. And I've had to do that too before online, where I felt really, just last year, I took 3 months off and told my community, like, I'm creating content that sucks. Like, I'm just creating shit to create it.
Yeah.
Just to say that I posted it and I published it. But like, you're probably feeling it and I'm feeling it. It's fake. And they were so supportive. And they were like, take all the time you need. We'll be waiting.
Cool.
Yeah. So I think whatever you're doing, trying to remain in that state of integrity is what will always keep you feeling good. And if you're building a business, them feeling good too.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to someone that wants to create this life, not necessarily the boat life, but boat life is great, but it definitely comes with its challenges. Internet is one. But what advice would you give to someone that like wants to create a freedom-based lifestyle, that lifestyle where you can work from anywhere in the world, but also it means that you've got to put yourself out there a little bit and confront some fears?
Yeah, consistency. 2 things, consistency and abundance. So I'll speak to consistency first. Whatever you're going to do, whether it's online or it's in a brick and mortar situation, which wouldn't really give you freedom, but it could be an alternative-based lifestyle, right, where you're not working for the man. Consistency. Be consistent in what you're creating, the level of work that you're creating, the messages that you're speaking, you know, all of it. Just really show up. And so what I mean by that is, if you're going to create content online and you commit to once a week, commit to once a week.
Yeah. And
just because you're tired that week doesn't mean you get a hall pass, you know, because if you're working for yourself, a big attribute you need is self-discipline.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you can agree with that.
Yeah. No one's with there at work being like, you're late.
No
you're
one's
on your own
telling
time.
you what to do. No
Yeah.
one's giving you your goals for the week. No one's giving you your quarterly goals.
Got to be so self-motivated.
Absolutely. And so self-motivated and self-discipline are really key attributes. And so I found over the years that consistency is what built the bedrock of trust with my community. And it gave them this feeling of, okay, she's showing up, we're going to show up. So whatever you do, find a way to be consistent, and that will resonate so deeply, right? And then the second one is abundance. So
I love the word abundance.
yeah, right?
I think of fruit, like lots of fruit.
Yeah. I think
Just because where we are.
I think of the ocean, because like when we were crossing, I was like, there's just so much ocean.
Yeah,
Like,
we're pulling tunas out left, right, and center. It's been
I
great.
was just like, there's just so much of it.
Yeah.
So abundance, I want to speak to that, in that a lot of people won't get started because they think, well, someone else has done it and they've done it better than me, and there's no point. There's just no point.
Yeah.
And I could have said that about being on YouTube as a yoga teacher. I could have said that about creating a course. I could have said that about leading retreats. But the fact of the matter is, the pie can infinitely grow. It has boundless and unlimited potential. All you have to do is define this really small slice and commit to growing your slice, you know?
Because you only need a tiny, tiny slice, right?
A tiny slice.
Yeah.
The tiniest
That's
slice.
cool. I like that.
And once you find that slice and continue to build it and hone it and, you know, mold it and shape it with your messaging and your content and your intentions, that is what's going to be the ticket, you know? And so don't let that stand in the way, ever.
Yeah.
You know, so consistency and an abundance mindset, knowing that, for instance, I would like to start growing another branch. Like, I think of my business as a tree, and it has these branches coming off of it. And so the pillars we were talking about are branches.
Yeah.
And so I would like to grow another branch that helps yoga teachers specifically get out of the studio full time.
Yeah, great.
And whether it's,
Because that's a pain point of yoga teachers, running around town being like, got to be at this studio, especially when you're starting out, right?
it's such a pain point.
And it's
I
not
mean,
your yoga, it's someone else's, really.
it's someone else's yoga. Some of those teachers are teaching 20 and 30 classes a week,
Yeah.
which is insane.
Yeah, yeah. It's exhausting.
It's energetically exhausting. Like, you can't hold space that much.
Yeah.
So at a certain point, you know, you have an integrity hangover and you don't have time for your own practice, that's for sure. So I would love to help yoga teachers develop their version of freedom-based and alternative freedom and financial freedom.
Yeah.
You know? So, but I'm falling victim to the whole, well, there's so many people teaching online marketing, and why would they buy it from me? And like, how could I be a trusted source? Even though I have a degree in marketing and I have the social proof that I've done it because I'm doing it and I'm
Yeah.
living it. So like, that's a new mountain.
You still have that doubt?
I still have that doubt.
Oh, man.
So it never goes away. So it's like a new mountain of fear I need to transcend. And it's coming back to what I'm speaking to is the abundance mindset and believing that there's a small slice that will want to learn from me. And so those are my biggest 2 points of advice for someone starting out. And for my younger self, I would say, be consistent and believe in abundance. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think what you've built is amazing. I think the fact that you're out here and doing it from a floating home is incredible.
I call it that too.
That
Floating
you're,
home.
what, 30 years old?
Yeah, we're both 31.
Yeah.
Just turned 31 this year.
It's amazing. There's so many people, and I love the time. We were talking about this the other night by the fire. We had this beautiful fire on the beach that we live in such a beautiful time. Our parents didn't live in this time where we can think of an idea, go and sit down, be disciplined with how we construct it, and create our own life and our own income and make it happen.
Yeah.
And the internet's amazing to do that, and the fact that you guys are here on this boat doing it from here is pretty cool.
It's so cool. We are, you know, for everyone listening and watching, like, we are so blessed to live in this time period.
Yeah.
And if this kind of lifestyle speaks to you, which I imagine it does if you're watching this and you're part of the Still Stoked community, like, believe in your ideas and take advantage of the time that we're living in.
Yeah, and the tools are available to us. Like you said, there's so much free content out there.
Oh my God.
That if you do have the time, you can collate all of that. Or there's amazing courses that people are doing that are paid products to kind of really. And then I think once you pay for a product as well, you're like, okay,
You're committed.
I'm committed because I paid for it. It's not just me like dipping my toe in and being like absorbing for osmosis the occasional YouTube video that I watch, but you're like committed. So I think that would be, if you're serious about it, I think that's probably a good, like what you did, and I think what I would like to do.
You're absolutely correct. Once you put that money down, it's like, okay, I can't like fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm gonna do this thing.
I got it. I got to show up.
Yeah, but we do live in a really cool time, and I mean, there's so many young people in this anchorage, which is really great to see.
Yeah, there's what, 4 or 5 boats, and we're all, I think I'm the oldest at like 35.
Which is crazy because in the Caribbean, it was a much older age group, and so to see all these young people out here and doing it and like walking away from society's rules and cultural conditioning is so motivating and inspiring.
It's super inspiring.
Yeah. You know, I even was saying, because you've seen, there's not many Americans out here, girls. We're very
underrepresented.
That's
underrepresented.
The word. And so, like, I feel I want to write like a call to Americans, like, stop the rat race.
America, you get 8 days off a year, but you know, life doesn't have to be like that.
Get out here and live before it's too late. Yeah, and that's the motto at my company and community is live your journey. And whatever that journey is, I just want you to live it. And I don't want to let the journey live you.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to let someone else. I want to help people realize if you don't live your journey, someone else will live it for you, and they will be happy to live it for you.
And I always think, like, you know, I don't want to build someone else's dream. When I go to work every day and I sit in my cubicle, I'm building someone else's dream. I want to build my own dream. And it's that like decision that you've taken and that I'm about to take, where it's like, no, I'm going to go home. I'm going to like sit down and I'm going to be committed to it. I'm going to build my own dream and like live my own journey and not work for and save all the money and squirrel it away and sit. And then when I'm 50 and retired, I'd be like, oh, right, let's go and do those things I wanted to do, but my knees don't work anymore.
Exactly.
You know?
You know, one thing I wanted to say to you and to everyone watching is this concept of, and Elizabeth Gilbert talks about it in Big Magic, whatever you choose to do. So when I built the Journey Junkie, the first 3 years or like 2 years of building it into transition from the blog to the business, in that like 2-year transition period, I worked full time. And so we shot all the classes on the weekend. I worked at night. I woke up at 5 a.m. And my point being that don't make whatever it is you're trying to manifest and cultivate into what you would love to be your future business and financial income. Don't put all the pressure on it to be that immediately.
Yeah, it takes time.
Takes time. Give yourself the gift of patience and time to let it naturally cultivate and bloom and blossom. Because if you're like, I'm going to build this business and I'm going to go balls to the walls and quit my job and put all of the pressure for this to work, you won't be able to think, you won't have the clarity and the creativity and the room to create from your heart. You know, you'll be so fixated on the numbers and the income. And so don't rush it. Don't rush the process. Like, give yourself the freedom to build it and have another means of financial income until you're ready.
Take the pressure off.
So yeah, you got to take the pressure off. You can't put the pressure on that kind of work.
Yeah.
It's too much. And so she talks a lot about how when she was, you know, an up-and-coming writer, Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love and Big Magic.
Both 2 great books.
Yeah, but before that, like, I think until Eat, Pray, Love, she had other jobs.
Yeah, right.
Even though she had like 6 other books published by then.
Yeah.
She still had another job so that the pressure wasn't on her writing, you know? So I think that's another really important thing is don't have these ridiculous expectations for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, be compassionate. And I call it compassionate action. Take compassionate action. Like, don't sit around and be a bump on a log.
A bump on a log?
Yeah.
Is that an American saying?
Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
So like a log, and it would just have a bump and it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Just bobbing about. Bob the bump on the log.
Yeah. Don't be Bob the bump on the log. But also don't be so crazy, you know? Don't create all of these extreme expectations and outcomes and then beat yourself up and, you know, be really rude and mean to yourself about how you're not moving fast enough or creating fast enough or building the numbers fast enough. Take compassionate action.
I think consistency takes time as well. Like, Google likes websites that are old and have history and are regularly updated, and only like Still Stoked is now maybe 6 years old, and only in the last 2 years, I'd say, like some of those articles have started to rank like #1 for certain key keywords. But it took time. You can't write something or put a video on YouTube and expect it to come up as like the first result immediately. It takes time.
It takes time, and Google and YouTube are sister companies, and so
Yeah.
they're both working off the same algorithm, and yeah, they like regularly updated content. And I agree with you, it took 2 or 3 years for some of my pages to rank on the first page of Google and rank on the first page of a YouTube search query.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it definitely takes time, and Google want, you know, just like how your community wants to believe in you, so does Google.
Yeah. Because there's so much content being uploaded to the internet, right? There's got to
And a
be
lot of
some
it's
way to
shit.
source it. Yeah, sort for it.
Yeah, exactly. So give yourself the gift of time. That's another one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So where can people find you, and what's coming up for the Journey Junkie?
So it's thejourneyyunkie.com. It's at The Journey Junkie on YouTube and Instagram. What's coming up? We're going to Bali in 2 weeks, but I think by the time you get this uploaded,
Yeah, find some internet
with
somewhere.
French Polynesian internet, those retreats might be over or are underway. I've got a retreat in Mexico in December if anyone feels like coming to Puerto Vallarta.
Nice. Good surf there too, right?
Yeah, there is good surf there. And I have an online yoga studio if you're interested in really solid yoga that also delves into the deeper principles. And I have a course that comes out once a year. So really, if you just go to the Journey Junkie, and if you're really interested in what I do, you can sign up, put your email address in, and I'll send you all the goods.
Yeah.
You'll get all the goods.
Sweet. And
Yeah.
we'll link to all of that in the bottom.
Thanks.
Yeah, my
So
pleasure.
where are we headed to next? What island are you going to?
We're going to go to Nuku Hiva.
Nuku Hiva.
Yeah, and then I think we're all making our way south to the Tuamotus on our way to Tahiti.
Yep, we're on the same path. So Nuku Hiva, here we come.
Yeah.
I gotta get some internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could do with some internet. Although I really like this offline life. It gives you so much time to think.
Yes.
Like ideas can just brew in your head, and they don't have to go anywhere yet. They can just sit, right? Percolate.
Yeah.
And go on a notepad and just sit. And it's good. It's
And
beautiful.
develop. Yeah.
Highly recommend that time away to anybody that's thinking of like a life change.
Or at least like unplug your Wi-Fi completely.
Yeah.
So
Put your phone in the drawer. I don't even know the last time I touched my phone.
yeah,
It's
because
great.
that disconnection is what creates the really good stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So yeah.
Sweet.
All right. Cheers.
You little legend.
Mwah. Nice meeting you.
You too.
Yeah.
And for anyone that's watching this and you're enjoying meeting amazing people like Allie and hearing their stories, if you wouldn't mind subscribing just below and giving this video a like, that would be sick.
Yeah. All right. Nice meeting you all.
Oh, nice local man paddling by in the boat.
Oh, that was the guy that built us the fire last night, right?
He smiled. He didn't smile last night.
Yeah, he was not happy.